Hey guys, we're back in the studio. I'm so excited to see you guys here today. I've got a lot to do around here, but most importantly, after releasing a second video of how to be a better artist, based on my how to be a better collage artist, I came up with some ideas on how you guys could be a better collage artist. So this is part 2 of how to be a better collage artist. So grab your scissors or your scalpel and let's get collaging. I've been exploring a lot more types of collage artists in the collage community, including assemblage and sculpture and such. And so I think I have a new understanding of collage, honestly. And that's what led me to come up with this new list. So let's start with number 1. A collage is so much more than the pieces you use within it. You can have the best source material and still make a bad collage. I do it all the time. Collage is the medium of communication. So the thing we're trying to do with the papers usually is communicate some sort of message. But what if it just becomes a bunch of images on a page? A lot of the students in my collage courses will find about 20 images that they think are interesting, cut them out, and then try to put them all together on a paper. The thing that I always ask them is, how could you say more with less? Do you need every piece that's in this collage to make the message work still? Most of the time, the answer is no if you have a lot going on in the page. Usually people will have a phrase that kind of gives an idea of what it's about, and then a whole bunch of different images. But could it just be one image with the text as well? I challenge you to think of collage in minimalism, see how little you need to make a message, and how striking a composition can be with less. But the opposite can be true, and this is something that I honestly don't see in beginners, but I see a lot on Instagram. And that is people using less and having no message behind the piece. And in that, sometimes I think it's okay to create a title, for example, that would make it a lot more easy to figure out what the piece is even about. But for a lot of artists, they just make things that are pretty. And that's okay. But the truth is that both of these lack something. They're lacking a story or they're lacking a composition. So to me, if I have both, that's a great piece of art. If I have one and not the other, it's okay. And if I don't have either, yikes, we gotta start from scratch. My second tip is to source smarter, not harder. Girl, let's have a deep conversation. You do not need to store every paper scrap, every paper, every magazine that you've ever come across. Okay, well maybe you do, but if you do, you need to have an organization system for them. For me, as you can see in my bookcases, I do them by type of magazine. So Life magazine, National Geographic, Nature books, etc. Some people with a filing cabinet sort by color or subject. I think a lot of us go spiraling into the paper avalanche when we start, and then we end up just flipping through magazines the entire time versus making artworks. That's what's led me to have my piles of potential. I highly recommend going through and having a day where you make a whole bunch of source material and then make them on another day. This is why challenges like Febrelage, a month-long challenge in February to make a collage a day, is so great because it comes with a prompt list. Just to plug it, I have my own prompt list that I put out monthly. It has 12 prompts to help people make their artwork. If I were you and I struggled with this, I would take the prompts, make piles for each one at the beginning of the month, and then try to make those 12 pieces throughout the month. This is a good amount of work, I would say. You don't have to do every single one too, whichever ones inspire you. Make up your own list if you want to. But I think that this process really helps in pushing out way more artwork. So I'm taking notes for myself too. I gotta start doing this process as well. This is gonna be 2B, I guess, is that if you are hoarding papers and not using them, honestly, get rid of them. And I'm giving you permission here, go find ones that you're actually gonna use. A lot of the time we hoard things because we're like, ooh, this is kind of interesting. But if you never use it, if it's been years, why are you holding on to it? I do think that sometimes you'll come back to old things, but there's some things that after a while of making your art, you'll just be able to see and understand if it's ever going to be something that relates back to your process and what you want to make in your art. For example, for me, when I first got vintage magazines, I loved the vintage cars. I cut out like hundreds of them, and then I literally never used them. I tried to find new ways to use them. Never worked. So those all went into collage kits. And I think there's a lot more that I could put in. This is your sign to do a spring cleaning of your papers. We're on to number 3. Use white space intentionally. White space is never wasted space. These are two completely different things. The part that's covered is the inhale, and the white part is the exhale. It's a dramatic pause. A moment of silence before the next visual mic drop. Not every inch needs to be screaming at us to take a look at it. Sometimes empty space can make the loud parts even louder. I'll use my work as an example. You can definitely see that very clear in a lot of these pieces. In all of these pieces, if the background was also busy, It would not emphasize the meaning that it shows in these artworks as dramatically. This is something that I think a lot of people could use a lot more of in their artwork. So I hope that helps. This is number 4, and it's a hard one, but it's one that you all need to hear. I can see the white lines on the edge of your artworks. And yes, it is messy. Let's fix that. Most of the time, it's due to a dull blade or too thick of a blade. If you're using a box cutter, get that out of here. If you're using a craft knife with an old blade that's like 2 years old, don't do that. Especially when little blades are so cheap. I think I got like 100 for $10. I basically switch them out every few collages, if not more frequently. And when I forget to change it, you can see it in the artwork. Small tears and rips or white lines will appear. And I don't want this for any of you. Get the thinnest blades you can possibly get. I have the ones that I use linked in my Amazon down below. If you're interested in trying scissors as well, that's usually a good way to keep away from these white lines. Some people have also said that they put inks along the edges to get rid of them or marker, but it can be messy. I wouldn't really recommend that route. Instead, thinner blades, change them out often. If you cut straight, just try it on a slight angle and make sure that the angle is backwards so that the white will show on the bottom and not on the top, if that makes sense. And the next one I said in my How to Be a Better Artist, but I'm going to put it here too because for collage, I think it's even more important. But name your artworks. It's one thing to have an untitled or cat in a basket, for example. It's another thing to mute a collage artwork. As I've said 100 times, I swear, collage is the communication medium. If you don't have a title that provokes a thought, the message could be lost. You need to breadcrumb your viewer so that they get the best understanding of what your piece means. For example, my largest artwork I've ever done, a lot of people look at and are like, oh, that's beautiful. And then you see them walk up and read the tag next to it. And it says, planted in patriarchy. Now you have a different meaning of what this piece means. Before, it was a lady in a planter. Then you look a little bit closer and see she's planted in a top hat. It's thought-provoking, and it makes you think. Then there's a piece like this one that's called Building a Burden, and a lot of people would look at it and be like, oh, there's a bunch of stuff, not sure what it means. But when you ask the people to look at the name tag and then think about the piece, you'll see a connection. It'll remind us of consumerism and all the burdens that we've built for ourselves as a society versus just being hunter-gatherers. The next tip is to utilize a junk journal. Painters and drawers always have sketchbooks. This is something that a lot of collage artists do not do. And I understand why. It's hard to put something that you love into a sketchbook and be like, oh no, I wish I didn't glue it down. But the benefit of having this is that you're going to make things and do it for fun. Try new techniques, use your scraps, try out different mediums. It's a safe place to play. I think a lot of artists take their art a little bit too seriously and forget that art is about playing. And it's about practicing a lot more. The more you have fun and the more you practice, the more your curiosity is going to grow and your true style is going to come through. This does not need to be necessarily just collage. It could be trying mixed media, mixing in new materials, trying out new papers. There are so many opportunities in a junk journal, and I encourage you to try it out. And if you're a junk journaler, I highly recommend you do the opposite, where you try to make a collage that's much larger. As an artist, it's important to keep your neural waves open. By doing the same thing over and over again, you're making the hole deeper and deeper. But by trying in the new way, you're making a whole new path, which will lead you to a better art practice. Okay, I have one final tip for you today, and that's to build a visual vocabulary, a symbolic library, if you will. I urge you to take a moment and flip back through all of the artworks you've made recently. Whether that's the last month, the last year, depends on how much art you're making. Let's look at all the symbolism that you have within it. Let's look at your reoccurring themes and images. What is coming up in your artwork? Are you seeing patterns or are you kind of still all over the place? For me, I think this is a very useful tool. And sometimes it takes another person's eye. So maybe if you have someone that you trust with your art, invite them over to take a look at your art and let them know that they can tell you whatever they want about what they're seeing in your pieces. I was lucky enough to have a professional art show and people showed up and said very interesting things about my work that I'd never heard before. And it really got me thinking about the pieces that I'm making and what the symbolism behind them are. For example, someone said that my artwork reminds them of a main character energy moment, which is definitely so true. When I look at my pieces, I usually pick a subject first, someone who has this evoked emotion in their face, something fun, whatever it is that day. Something usually grasps me in the emotions that I feel from the person that I select for that piece. It's usually someone, a single subject matter, having their main character moment, honestly. And what does that mean about me? Now I gotta do some reflecting and think about that idea. I think that this is very helpful if you decide to show your art. You'll be able to make an artistic statement about this, and it'll help fit your work into different series. And maybe you'll be very intrigued by one of these subject matters and make it your main focus in your artworks. This will hopefully lead to more consistency, and maybe this will make you feel more confident that you can create a series that will be viewed in a gallery, for example. Anyways, those are all the ideas that I had today, and I really hope that they were helpful. I'd love to know which one of these tips you liked the most, if you have any other tips for artists starting out in collage, and I'd love to know how you're going to fit these ideas into your own practice. And as always, if you liked this video, please go check out my website, flanzella.com, and support me as an artist. If you're new here and you've just stumbled onto my corner of the internet, this is my website where you can find my art prints, originals, and collage kits. By supporting me as an artist, you support me making more of these videos for you guys, and I would love to be able to provide more information and more help along the way for you in your artistic journey. So with that, I say adieu, and I'll see you in the studio next week. Bye guys.